Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Mythic Pod here on Mythic United. I'm your host Tony, and today's going to be a little bit of a different episode. We're going to talk about the future of Mythic United. Believe it or not, Mythic United's been around since 2015. That's pretty insane. And if you actually go back further than that, myself and Jim both had our own kind of content creation things going on where I was Gruntled Gamer, which is an awful name, and Jimmy was Power Grudge, and Jimmy still is Power Grudge in a lot of things that he does. I think he introduces himself as that in the Mythic Pod, as well as his personal music endeavors. But either way, Mythic United's been around for a long time now, and what I've seen is a lot of different changes in what we do. At first it was blog posts. Then it was a podcast that me and Jimmy both shared, but the recording quality was shit. Then it was Let's Plays for a while, which was fun. Then that got really busy and we couldn't take it anymore, and then it kind of died for a while, and it was revived back around September last year. I revived it and we started anew. And I like the website now. I love the Mythic Music Podcast. I think it's great. I like this podcast, the Mythic Pod. I think it's awesome. I like what matters, but I do have a problem with some of our content right now. And not necessarily the content itself. I think it's just the way we deliver it. And more specifically, the way I deliver it, because I run most of that. And it's really on me, and I wanted to talk about it on today's podcast. This is going to be more of me just kind of talking out into the internet here. It's going to be more of a rant-style podcast, so I apologize in advance if this is not what you want to listen to. By all means, just turn it off. Listen to your other podcast, whatever you got to do. But this is me kind of pouring my heart out here for Mythic United. One thing I'm noticing I'm doing a lot is trying to be something I'm not. And this is tough for me to admit because when we first started Mythic United, that was not the goal at all. This was supposed to be me and Jimmy just having a great time making content together. And it wasn't supposed to be Achievement Hunter. It wasn't supposed to be IGN. It wasn't supposed to be Game Grumps. It wasn't supposed to be Markiplier. It wasn't supposed to be anything like that. It was just supposed to be us doing something because we loved it. And that's what initially started Mythic United, and that's what's kept it alive really over these last couple of years. There have been 4 or 5 or 6 times where this thing has just straight up died, and we had to bring it back because we missed it after a while. And I think that's a good sign really for it, that we kept bringing it back. But I think what's happening right now with this new version of Mythic United is, well, for one, I think the Mythic Music Podcast is awesome. I think that's probably our best content on the website. If you haven't listened to any of it, you got to go listen to it. Jim's wicked, absolutely wicked in it. You got to listen to it. It's our best stuff. And one of the reasons it's the best things is because it's so laser focused in what it's trying to accomplish here. And I think that's something I need to get better at specifically. I think the Mythic Pod does a good job of this, aside from this episode, mind you. But I think the Mythic Pod does a good job of focusing in on what it actually is. And I think there's a lot of room for growth here for me. I think there's still a long way for me to go before I even get close to the kind of focus Jimmy has on the Mythic Music Podcast, just in terms of the quality and the direction of it. But I'm going to try to get there. But what this podcast is really more about is the rest of my content, the What Matters posts, the streams, the opinion pieces, the reviews, that kind of stuff. And a part of the reason I'm talking about it is because it's important for me to understand and for me to say that I've been not true to myself in making this stuff. I've been trying to make something that's just not going to work. And this isn't me giving up on that content. This is just me thinking of, okay, this is all the stuff I love. I'm trying to do something with it. It's just not working. And I think it's because I'm trying to focus all of my content in different directions. So how can I make this better for me? How can I make this better for everyone who consumes our content? And ultimately, how can I keep Mythic United alive in the best way possible? Because I love this thing. And I think one of the ways I can do that, and by one of the ways, I mean really the way I can do that, is cutting down on the amount of content that's happening here, but make it have a higher quality. And what I mean by that is I think the podcast is still going to remain a weekly thing. I think it should remain a weekly thing for me. I like doing this podcast, and it challenges me, and it's a creative outlet. As you can hear right now, I'm kind of just spouting my feelings about this blog. But I think the Mythic Pod's going to kind of remain a weekly thing. I think What Matters is going to remain a weekly thing. That's going to be my kind of weekly summary of what kind of happened in the video game industry. And that's as much for me as it is for you guys, really. I like making these summaries of everything important that happened because I like to stay up to date on this stuff, and it's something I kind of do anyways. And I like making something that it's all in one spot for me to look at. So I like doing that. I'm going to keep doing that. But I think really what I'm going to do here is the streams are going to stop for the most part, but more of a higher quality production video is going to begin. And this is going to be really tough for me because I have no idea what I'm doing here. But I think things like the Halo Wars 2 review and retrospective, things like the top 10 games and top 10 anticipated games of 2018, things like, you know, why Halo 5 Guardians was the worst Halo ever, or whatever you want to talk about here. Any of these opinion pieces that are coming out for me on a bi-weekly or weekly basis, I feel like me writing 1,500 to 2,000 words essay style, putting it out there, it's not something I should be doing here. I can't compete with these websites who have these ad dollars and have this established name. Like, no one's going to come to Mythic United for that stuff, and I understand that now, and it's something that's hard for me to admit. I don't think it's ever going to get to the point where that happens, because you really have to become a mega brand for that to happen, and that's just tough, man. Like, that takes time, it takes a lot of money, and that's something that I do not have. So something I would like to do is change my delivery in that. Instead of making these posts where, again, 1,500 to 2,000 words, it's just this essay style thing, it's going to become a video. And that video is really just going to be, it's going to be the same thing where I'm really just, I'm talking about the same topics, really, because I like where I'm focusing on that side of things. But instead of making it this post here, I'm going to make it a video and turn it into something that can be more engaging and something that people can consume easier and find easier, frankly. Something where, if you've seen any of the Actman videos, where he kind of grew his channel from nothing out of his awesome Halo videos, and the production quality at the beginning wasn't awesome, but it just kept getting better and better and better and better, and now I think he's probably one of the best creators on YouTube. And this was, you know, he just runs the show here. Like, he doesn't have any help. This is just him doing it, and I think that's what I want to try to accomplish here, is become something where my content and delivery are both in the same focus, in the same laser focus, the thing I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. And what I mean by that is the blog post idea, I'm not going to get the traffic. And I'm not looking for, I'm not looking to become the next IGN. I'm not looking to become the next Rooster Teeth. I'm not looking to become the next, whatever you want to call it, Markiplier, whatever it is. I'm not looking to do that, man. I'm just looking to keep this thing alive, this Mythic United thing, and grow it in any way I can. And what I'm doing right now, I feel like it's really just running in place. And in order for me to explore making it bigger and better, I need to change things up a little bit. I think the podcast was a great change. I think this video idea is going to be another great change for the website. And what does that really mean for people who consume our content, or people who like reading it and stuff like that? It doesn't mean that it's going to completely go away. It just means it's going to slow down. And what I mean by that is the What Matters is going to continue. The podcast is going to continue. But what's going to change are these things that are coming out on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. It's really going to turn into a 3 or 4 week process for these videos, especially to start, where I'm going to have to get an idea for it. I'm going to have to write a script. I'm going to have to get gameplay footage. I'm going to have to capture all of this and eventually edit it and turn it into this high quality thing. And I'm really looking forward to doing that. Don't get me wrong. I think that's a great creative challenge. It's just what's going to happen here is it's going to take a lot longer for me to produce things, especially at the beginning. I don't really know what I'm doing. I can figure it out. I've done some stuff, and I've already figured out a lot of stuff with even just podcasting and getting it on Google Play and iTunes and all that stuff, and the website and streaming. Like I've figured out a lot on the go with this Mythic United thing, and this is just another hurdle. This is just another hurdle. That was a lot of stuttering. Wow. I'm not editing this thing. You can tell I'm not editing it. This is me talking to you. This is me talking to me. This is me talking to whoever's listening. This content is going to get better, and I think Mythic United is something that's going to keep on growing, and one of the ways I can keep doing that, and one way I can stay true to myself and make something I'm proud of, is that big change. And what really made me realize this big change was I've had a pretty tough time at work over the last little bit, and I'm not talking like a regular tough time. I'm talking like a spirit-shattering, morale-breaking tough time at work over the last little bit, and me working 12 to 14-hour days, 200% focus, capacity, whatever you want to call it, never any breaks, always overworking myself every minute of the day for days on end, coming home super late, having just enough time to eat, go to bed, but then I have this adrenaline from being so, flicked on all day where I'm just having to go that I can't sleep. And then I wake up the next day and I'm already so stressed out and tired, and I have to do it all over again. And what this has made me do is, in these nights where I'm just staying up, I'm just thinking, and I'm thinking, how can I get out of this funk? How can I do this? And the first thing I always think of is Mythic United, and how it's this thing I created, and this thing Jimmy created, and this thing we created, really, where it's this creative outlet, and the only reason we do it is because we love it. And I'm thinking about it, and I'm going, man, like, what can I do to make this thing an even bigger part of my life, and make it that much more of a positive beacon, and make it better, really. And this is what I came up with. This is exactly what I came up with, and it means less content, but it means better content. And I hope everyone understands that. And that's it for this week's episode of the Mythic Pod, episode 6. It's only episode 6, and I'm having major Mythic United crisis here, but that's okay. That's good. It's part of the creative process. You build it up to break it back down, all that kind of stuff, right? So thank you for listening. If you even listen through it all, I really do appreciate it. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you'd kind of like to see moving forward. Any and all feedback I'm going to take, and I'm going to take it to heart here. So just leave a comment on the video if you're watching on YouTube. Leave a comment on the podcast reviews if you're on Google Play or iTunes. If you see this on Facebook or Twitter, feel free to comment or reply to that. And if you're on our website, you can always leave a comment there too. And you can find us on all these things just by searching Mythic United. And that's it for this week's episode of the Mythic Pod. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Bye now.